Argentina Rally ask for us many and many things more.
Airborne power and grace from a Boeing 747 on its final approach to Johannesburg International Airport, and on terra firma an impressive display of rally horsepower at the start of the Gauteng Rally at the East Rand Mall in Boksburg. After a long, hard season, this was the final event of this year's Stanek Rally Championship calendar, with a number of championship issues still to be settled. The event drew an entry of more than 50 cars, headed by newly crowned South African champions Jan Habak and Douglas Judd from the VW Motorsport factory stable. Among those titles still up for grabs was the overall Group N championship, where reigning champion Hannes Grobler was the leading contender.
The other guys in Group N is very near to us. We have to pull it through. We're not going to try and chase the A7s and A6s. I think we just go today and see if we can do well, finish, and score some points. And hopefully we can win the Group N championship for the second year in a row.
Looking to end the year in a blaze of glory was Sasol Ford driver Paulo Piazzamuso.
To end off on a high note would be fantastic for the team. But we've got to be realistic. I mean, we've seen this year we're not been really on the pace of the top two guys, Serge and Yanni, mainly because of technical bits. We've done some home development now with the help of Glen Hall, thank you very much. But we'll see. Proof of the pudding is in the eating, so today the stages will tell us if we've gone a little bit forward or not.
It was fitting that newly crowned champions Habak and Judd should be the first car flagged away at the start. The VW Motorsport crew were followed by arch rivals Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson in the works Castrol Toyota Conquest, with the rally expected to again develop into a duel between the two factory crews. Third on the road were Team Total pair Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley, and they were followed by Piazzamuso and Richard Leek in the Sasol Motorcraft Ford Escort. Day one featured 13 scheduled tar and gravel special stages concentrated on the East Rand in Boksburg, Nigel, Secunda, Delmas and Central Rand areas. With more than 140 kilometres of special stage distance and around 260 kilometres of liaison sections, it was going to be a long day. Proceedings got underway with the longest stage of just over 14 kilometres, and with no pressure on either crew where the championship was concerned, champions Jan Habak and Douglas Judd were looking forward to a head-to-head confrontation with the Castrol Toyota Conquest pair of Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson. The two crews were the dominant factors throughout the Stanek Rally Championship, with Habak and Judd going into the Stanek Gauteng Rally with 5 wins and 2 second places. Pride was at stake for Damso and Hodgson, who opened the season with a win on the Stanek Tour Natal, and then had to be content with a lone win and 5 second places in the next 6 events. The Castrol Toyota Conquest crew immediately threw down the gauntlet where Habak and Judd were concerned by winning the special stage by 3 seconds. Behind the two factory cars, there were early problems for KwaZulu-Natal pair Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley. The Team Total Toyota Conquest refused to rev at full power, and the pair virtually coasted through the special stage and dropped around 40 seconds on the factory cars. If the opening stage was disappointing for Lawrence and Paisley, it was positively disastrous for Paulo Piazzamuso and Richard Leek. When the Sasol Ford Escort hit a causeway 900 metres from the start, it inflicted heavy damage, and the mortally wounded Ford Escort never made it to the end of the stage. After 3 non-finishes in a row that contributed to their dethroning as Class A6 champions, the Dunair Toyota Corolla pair of Hergen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz had a point to prove. They were quick out of the starting blocks to set the 4th fastest time on the special stage, behind the 2 factory cars and Class A7 championship leaders Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding in the Reeks towing VW Golf. Van der Walt and Harding were locked in a title battle with Team Total VW Golf pair Barry Grobler and Mike Burrows, who had a mathematical chance of sneaking the Class A7 championship via the back door. Team Total Toyota Corolla pair Jean-Pierre Damso and Pierre Aris were another crew who did not have to worry too much about championship pressure. They already had the Class A6 championship wrapped up, but the chips were down for Hannes Grobler and Nick Haddon in the Total Bridgestone Nissan Sentra. They could be caught in both the overall Group N and Class N3 championships, but were responding in typical Grobler fashion. Behind them, Tony Ball and Marty Olafia were out of the championship running, but were Class A7 wildcards who could upset the Grobler Burrows apple cart. Another Class A6 crew coming off a run of non-finishers were Pretoria pair Kali van der Merwe and Andre Vermeulen in the ex-Fecken Lukowitz Toyota Conquest. Like former champions Fecken and Lukowitz, the run of did-not-finish results scuppered any hopes Van der Walt and Vermeulen had of emerging as Class A6 championship contenders. For the pair, all that was at stake was a little pride, and they had set their sights on a top 10 finish. Pride was also all there was on the line for Cape driver Fernando Rueda and Jill Talton in the ex-factory de Mulanos. While they made good early progress, there was tragedy for well-known Witbank crew Rocky Reinecker and Richard Gernholz. They hit the special stage 1 causeway that put out Piazzamuso and Leek, but with more serious consequences. The Hencom Motorsport VW went into a series of barrel rolls with Reinecker taken to hospital with 2 broken vertebrae. The Reinecker-Gernholz accident put a bit of a damper on the early proceedings, with Jan Habak also a little unhappy with his lot.
You know, there's not a lot of driving skill in these stages so far. I'm not very impressed. And we have a small misfire, so, you know, we're running in 5th and 6th gear all the time. So we're not getting the top-end speed that we should be getting. So, yeah. But so far, you know, we haven't lost too much time. But the strategy is, of course, flat out.
After 2 special stages, the newly crowned South African champions were in fact only 2 seconds behind Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson.
After the 90 left through a gate. Gate, then T left. 200 gate, then T left. 100 gate, then T left. Yeah.
The traditional East Rand Milliefield special stages contained a high percentage of flat-out motoring in 5th or 6th gear, with the factory Class A8 cars at times hitting speeds of around 200 kilometers an hour. Habak and Judd made no bones that their strategy was based on flat-out policy, and their sentiments were echoed by Damso and Hodgson in the Castrol Toyota Conquest. It was making for an interesting tussle between the top crews in South African rallying. But while the factory crews went at each other hammer and tongs, Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were still trying to get the Team Total Toyota Conquest to operate at full power. Lawrence and Paisley were now embroiled in a battle for 3rd place with Class A6 leaders Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz, with the Danair Toyota Corolla able to match the out-of-sorts Class A8 car for pace. Also embroiled in the scrap behind the 2 factory cars were Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding, who were showing some uncharacteristic early event aggression. They'd taken the fight to Class A7 championship challengers Barry Grobler and Mike Burrows in the Team Total Golf. Grobler and Burrows had to finish as high as 3rd overall and 1st in class to sneak the A7 title, but were falling behind the reigning champions. On the Group N front, the ubiquitous Hannes Grobler and Nick Hatton were also tightening the screws on the 2 Team Total squads, Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen, and Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper, who could catch them in the overall Group N championship. Early retirements already had Grobler and Hatton running on the fringes of the top 10, and they picked up another place when they came across stranded Class A6 champions Jean-Pierre Damso and Pierre Aris at the flying finish at the end of Special Stage 3. Damso cut a lonely figure in the dust, and Tony Ball and Marty Olafia needed to take a detour around the stranded Damso Aris Team Total Toyota Corolla. While Ball and Olafia lost a few seconds, young Damso, newly crowned as Class A6 champion, had a tale of woe to tell.
We're coming up to the flying finish on the end of stage 3, and it's had a little S left-right, and we thought it was going straight on, so we just clipped a rock and the control arm broke there. So that's our rally run.
Further down the field, Cape crew Berto Mostert and Cobus Frey were building up an early head of steam and were part of the Class A7 equation. Behind the Cape crews, veterans Skalk Berger and Martin Buerta were starting to come into the reckoning in the Class A6 battle in the Bridgestone Quality Tyres Toyota Corolla, with the pair to campaign a Subaru Impreza 4x4 in next year's FIA African Continent Rally Championship. While Berger and Buerta were making good progress, Team Total Nissan Sentra pair Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen was slowly seeing the Group N and Class N3 championships slip from their grasp. The Group N title was also slipping away from Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper in the team total Toyota Corolla. They'd already clinched the Class N2 title, but they were waging war with Cobus Roos and Neil Faree in the Hencom Toyota Corolla in that class, with the two crews sniping away at each other in an interesting little cameo performance. Going into special stage 4, a short all-tar affair in Nigel, only 1 second separated Jan Habak and Douglas Judd and Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson. Race cam action catches a mistake from the factory VW Motorsport crew with a little off-road excursion, leaving the VW Motorsport Golf with a flat left rear tyre. High-tech rally cars still go like they're clappers with flat tyres, but under these circumstances they don't produce optimum performance, and the incident was to cost Habak and Judd 15 seconds in their fight with the Castrol Toyota Conquest factory crew. Drivers don't particularly enjoy these sort of stages where an encounter with a curb can spell disaster, and Damso did a little extra braking to avoid contact with a road rage. Damso and Hodgson emerged unscathed from the stage and now enjoyed a 16-second lead. Class A6 leaders Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz in the Dunair Toyota Corolla were still embroiled in a private little war with Class A7 leaders Chart van der Velde and Cindy Harding, who were still on a mission. Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were also part of the threesome battling it out behind the factory cars, but for Berto Mostert and Cobus Frey, it was the end of the line, with the Cape Pairs VW Golf not making it to the next special stage. Special Stage 5 at the Nuffield Industrial Park in Springs rewarded a good turnout of spectators. The layout of the special stage saw to it that at times, cars on their second lap were running closely with crews starting their first circuit. In one such confrontation, Class A7 leaders Chart van der Velde and Cindy Harding found Class A6 frontrunners Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz right on their tails. If you didn't know any different, it could be a scenario from a touring car race at AA Kyalami, but it provided the crowds with plenty of action. As far as the spectators were concerned, it was all good, clean fun, but for Group N leaders, Hannah Schlobber and Nick Haddon, there was a bit of a wake-up call when they had an encounter of the closest kind with Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows in the team total VW Golf. No harm done in the end, with Krobler and Burrows still chasing Van der Velde and Harding, and Krobler and Haddon extending their lead at the top of the Group N leaderboard. There was also a bit of a battle between the Cliff Blackman, Johan Klaassen team total Nissan Sentra and Scott Berger and Martin Butter, who used up more than their quota of road. Berger and Butter were still on the move in Class A6, while Class N2 leaders Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper in the team total Toyota Corolla were still at loggerheads with Cobus Roos and Neil Faree in the similar Hencom-backed car. Both Saunders and Roos are sons of former factory drivers with plenty of interest in their little duel. Class A7 runners Gijs Klein and Johan Barnard were in among the Class N2 combatants, along with Craig Trott and Brian Duncan in the team total Toyota Conquest in Class A6. Early Class S20 leaders Jackie Hubert and Jacques Cross were going great guns in the hybrid VW Beetle 4x4 that is powered by a turbocharged Volvo motor, and at this stage they were also top 10 contenders. Newly crowned champions Jan Habak and Douglas Judd went into special stage 6, trailing Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson by 16 seconds. Now was the time for the trademark Habak aggression to surface, but behind them there was drama. The Castrol Toyota Conquest was coasting along, and it was obvious that Damso and Hodgson were in dire straits. In the previous 7 events on the Stanek Rally Championship calendar, the two factory cars had an enviable 100% finish record. Considering the intense competition between the VW Motorsport and Castrol Toyota teams, this was a remarkable statistic.
Plugged in the computer. Yeah, plugged in the back. Push it in the computer.
It looked as though the law of averages had finally caught up with Damso and Hodgson, and team total paired Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were the first crew to go past the stricken Castrol Toyota Conquest. Precious time was ticking by as Damso and Hodgson continued to try and coax that car back into life. Hopes of a win to close off the season were rapidly disappearing, and when Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz also went past, the disgruntled Damso finally had to admit defeat.
It looks like the ignition, something cut out there, so it just swings where it doesn't want to take, so, you know, maybe the cutout was something gone wrong there.
With the Castrol Toyota Conquest out of the running with what was later found to be a broken distributor pin, the Stanek Gauteng Rally had ceased to be a contest up front. New leaders Jan Havik and Doug Judd were around 2 minutes clear of the rest of the pack and were now faced with a drive through the park, or should that be the Millie Fields? Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were still battling with niggly engine problems in the Team Total Toyota Conquest and had fallen behind Class A7 leaders Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding, who were now up into second place in the Reeks Towing VW Golf. Where the A7 Championship was concerned, Team Total pair Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows were keeping their hopes alive, but had to pull something out of the bag. At this stage, they were not making any impression on the reigning champions. At the front of the Group N field, Hannes Krobler and Nick Haddon in the Total Bridgestone Nissan Sentra were now solidly entrenched in the top 10. While they were tightening their hold on the Group N title, the pair were also locked in battle with two of the Class A6 runners. Callie van der Merwe and Andre Vermeulen were going steadily in the Toyota Conquest, but the Pretoria crew had been overhauled by Skalk Berger and Martin Buerter in the Bridgestone Quality Tyres Toyota Corolla, who were now also into the top 10. It wasn't turning out to be a happy event for two top KwaZulu-Natal teams. Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen were losing ground to Krobler and Haddon in the Group N and Class N3 title chase. And a loose fuel injector wire had dropped Tony Ball and Marty Olafia down the pecking order in the Bulwer Park VW Golf. Behind them, Eastern Cape crew Dolph Coetzee and Mario Swart in an aging Toyota Conquest were making good progress. And in the middle of the East Rand Millie Fields found a little pocket of supporters who were a long way from home. The Jojo Tanks VW Beetle Volvo is an unlikely-looking rally car, but Jackie Hubert and Jacques Cross were still on the fringes of the top 10 and going like a train. The Delmas Service Park, with Etienne Lawrence and technical crew trying to figure out what they should change next on the Team Total Toyota Conquest to get it to run at optimum performance.
200 meters into the stage, I started spluttering and going crazy, so I couldn't get that cleared out. Changed throttle pots and fuel pressures and everything while I was driving, but nothing seemed to happen. It seems like an electrical fault. Lost another 40 seconds now, so well, back to square one again. Try and get the time back and get back into second overall.
For Chart van der Walt, it was a slightly different scenario.
I mean, at this point in time, I think we are only about 20 seconds now in front of Ergen, but I mean, it can go any way. But the stage is fairly nice. We enjoy it, and we must just keep it together and see where we come, you know.
A huge crowd at the Delmas Tar stage, and disaster for Class A6 leaders Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz, who were cruising along with a broken side shaft. While that dropped the Dunair Toyota crew out of the top 3, Class N1 Championship contender Rodney Fasaki was doing a little forward planning on how to handle the assault on the class from Mike Houghton.
Yeah, it's very tight. We're just trying to keep it on the road, not take too many chances, just see how it goes. You know, it's still a long way to go. We've got a bit of night to do because there has been some delays, so we'll probably attack in the night.
It was getting a little gloomy when the final 2 special stages of the day were run at Centre Rand. Runners at the back of the field were going to finish their day in the dark. But with a handy lead and no Damso and Hodgson to worry about, the sun was still shining, so to speak, for VW Motorsport crew Jan Havik and Douglas Judd. Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were now up into 3rd place in the Team Total Toyota Conquest, and over the last 2 stages pulled back some time on 2nd place Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding in the Reeks Towing VW Golf. Behind Lawrence and Paisley, a fired-up Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz were on a charge to make up for the Delmas setback and were posting some blistering times. Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding lost time to both Lawrence and Paisley and Fecken and Lukowitz on the Centre Rand special stages, but were firmly in control of the Class A7 championship fight. It was business as usual for Hannes Krobler and Nick Haddon, with the Group N leaders still going along merrily in the top 10. The Centre Rand stages saw the demise of Class A6 runners Skalk Berger and Martin Buerter with overheating problems, and in Class N2, championship leaders Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper edged away from Kobus Roos and Neil Faree. The end of a long haul, with Hannes Krobler reflecting on a good day at the office.
As I say, so far so good. It's quite comfortable. We got a leading Group N. Everything is going according to plan. We don't look at the A6 and A7 times. So we're just trying to get to the end and seem to have the Group N title.
A handy day one lead for champions Habak and Judd, with an interesting scenario developing in the battle for the remaining podium positions. Outstanding championship issues would also be settled on day 2. The restart of the Stanek Gauteng Rally at AA Kyalami, with a scheduled special stage at the Midrand Grand Prix circuit having to be cancelled because of an administrative error. Rally leaders Jan Habak and Doug Judd were looking relaxed, while Chad van der Walt and Cindy Harding had to be happy with their lot after day 1. With the AA Kyalami special stage cancelled, the final day of the Stanek Rally Championship was to be an all-tar affair with special stages at Eurotech, Roslin, Norcombe Park and Esselen Park. And for those crews needing to make a late charge, there wasn't much special stage distance left to make up for lost time. The sprawling Eurotech vehicle test facility is one of the finest complexes of its kind in the world, with large crowds flocking to what promised to be 2 interesting special stages. On special stages like the one which opened proceedings, there's often not much room for error, and with a lead of nearly 3 minutes, Jan Habak and Doug Judd weren't about to take any risks. Although the notorious Eurotech water splash was dry this time around, Habak and Judd took matters very sedately. Apart from their stake in the Class A7 championship issue, Chad van der Walt and Cindy Harding were defending a 32-second lead over Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley. It was up to Lawrence and Paisley to make the running, and where the team total pair were concerned, they were hoping day 1 mechanical maladies had been sorted out.
Our strategy is just to go as fast as we can. We've now got all 4 calipers back on the car, so the braking should be back to normal again. And we'll see what happens. That's basically what we can do. We can just keep up the pressure.
The day started well for Lawrence and Paisley, who took 21 of the required 32 seconds off Van der Walt and Harding in the opening stage. For Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz, day 2 was also going to revolve around playing catch-up.
We're a minute behind Chad, 40 seconds behind Etienne. So we're just going to try and keep up the pressure and see if any one of them makes a mistake. And we're always aiming for that second place, yes.
Catching the crews ahead was going to be a tall order for Fecken and Lukowitz, and Class A7 championship contenders Barry Foblar and Mike Burrows also had a mountain to climb if they were going to lift the A7 championship from under the noses of Chad van der Walt and Cindy Harding. There wasn't much pressure flying around where Hannes Fobler and Nick Haddon were concerned, and all they basically had to do was stay on the road to wrap up the Group N and Class N3 titles. Fobler is a former South African rally and off-road champion, and with all his vast experience, wasn't likely to fall prone to sudden rushes of blood. A top 10 finish also beckoned for Callie van der Merwe and Rodri Vermeulen, although they had little hope of catching Fecken and Lukowitz in Class A6. Race cam footage is from the Van der Merwe-Vermeulen Toyota Conquest and graphically illustrates just how easy it is to make mistakes if you get a little over-enthusiastic. Experienced husband and wife team Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen led Class S20, which does not count for championship points, and took complete control of the category when nearest challengers Doug Kemsley and Steve Provolar came adrift in a big way. The Fuchs top car BMW, in which Kemsley has shared driving duties with former factory driver Enzo Kuhn over the latter stages of the season, was a little worse for wear after heavy contact with Eurotech's Armco barriers. Fortunately, neither driver nor navigator was hurt in what was a big accident. And replay action here of the incident also shows a major wake-up call for a couple of spectators who picked up the wrong vantage point. The second of the Eurotech special stages was at the handling test track. Tony Ball and Marty Olivier were defending a top 10 position and third in Class A7. In the Class N2 battle, championship leaders Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper in the team total Toyota Corolla started the day by taking 8 seconds off Quibus Ruiz and Neil Ferree, and now had a handy cushion over the Hencom Toyota. At At the overnight halt, Eastern Cape crew Gijs Klein and Johan Barnard were 4th in Class A7 in the team total VW Golf, and were having a personal duel with fellow Algoa Motorsport Club members Dolf Koetsier and Mario Swart in the old shape Toyota Conquest. The Group N and Class N3 titles were now virtually out of reach for Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen, and at this stage of proceedings they were merely going through the motions. That was hardly the case in Class S20, where Jaco and George Bakker, in a former Works Toyota Conquest, were battling to hold off a challenge from off-roaders Cliff Barker and Malcolm Joubert in the big Rob Green Racing Land Rover. Running at the front of the Class N1 field were Skalkberger Jr. and Greg Godrich in the Jojo Tanks Opel Kadett, with the pair having an impact on the outcome of the Class N1 championship. Behind them, Class A7 backmarkers Joel and Annika Ritson were locked in battle with Johan and Leon van der Merwe in the VW Golf entered in the Class S20. The duel between the Ritson and van der Merwe combinations was academic, but behind them, drama was being played out. Class N1 championship leaders Mike Houghton and Brian Doherty in the Toy Toy Spares Toyota Taz were ahead on the road of championship rivals Rodney Fasaki and Caroline Chimmer. On elapsed time, Houghton and Doherty trailed Fasaki and Chimmer by over a minute, and their championship hopes were receding. The third last stage of the Stanek Gauteng Rally saw the action shift to Rosslyn, with Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding still firmly entrenched in second place in an overheating Reeks towing VW Golf. This was another of those special stages where crews starting out on their first lap came across cars nearing the end of the stage, and Van der Walt and Harding came across rally leaders Jan Havik and Doug Judd, who were still in cruise mode. Van der Walt and Harding were still 11 seconds ahead of Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley, and this was to have an impact on the final overall championship positions. Lawrence and Paisley needed to finish ahead of Van der Walt and Harding to take third place ahead of Hannes Grobler and Nick Haddon.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have another podium position, but second would have been better because I need to get a few more points than Hannes does to be able to keep the third overall in the championship. And at this point in time, I think I'm a point short.
Lawrence and Paisley dropped another 5 seconds on Van der Walt and Harding in special stage 17, and that virtually ensured that runaway Group N leaders Hannes Grobler and Nick Haddon would also finish third in the overall championship. The Class N2 battle was just about wrapped up for Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper, with the team total Toyota crew now well in control of their scrap with Kobus Roos and Neil Ferree in the Hencom Toyota. Roos and Ferree were now around 2 minutes behind the team total pair, and with only 2 short special stages with a combined distance of 5 kilometers remaining, Roos and Ferree had little hope of closing the gap. Team total Nissan Sentra pair, Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen, had dropped behind the 2 Class N2 cars, but there was more drama when Gijs Klein and Johan Barnard rolled the team total VW Golf in the Rosslyn stage. They clipped a drain with heavy damage to what was a brand new car, but fortunately both Klein and Barnard were unhurt. Another team total crew in a spot of bother were Craig Trott and Brian Duncan, with 2 flat tyres hindering their progress. Like all good navigators, Duncan let driver Trott do all the hard work. But when they got underway again, it was still with a flat left rear tyre, and they went plummeting down the leaderboard. One crew who never had tyre problems were Cliff Barker and Malcolm Joubert, who ran the whole event on 1 set of tyres in the glorious-sounding Land Rover. The Jaco and George Bakker Toyota Conquest was also showing signs of some wear and tear, and spare a thought for Craig Trott and Brian Duncan, who eventually dropped around 5 minutes on a stage they will want to forget. The final special stage of the 1999 Stanek Rally Championship at Esselen Park, with South African champions Jan Havik and Doug Judd putting the finishing touches to a hugely successful season. Second place provided Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding with their best result of the season, and also wrapped up a 3rd successive Class A7 championship. There was another podium finish for Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley, but they missed out on 3rd place in the overall championship by just 1 point. Former Class A6 champions Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz bounced back to form with 4th place, but it was too little, too late. Another marvellous performance saw Hannes Grobler and Nick Haddon to 6th overall, and with it, the Group N and Class N3 championships. Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper wrapped up the Class N2 title with a maiden Class N1 win, going to Skulkberger Jr. and Greg Godrich in the Jojo Tanks Opel Cadet. It was a result that saw team total pair Rodney Fasaki and Carolyn Chimmer nip in ahead of Mike Houghton and Brian Doherty to win the Class N1 championship. Two Group N crews made it into the top 10, with Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen 8th overall in winning Class S20. For South African champions Jan Habak and Doug Judd, 6 wins and 2 seconds in 8 starts tell their own story in what was an outstanding season for the factory VW Motorsport team.
You know, our team has worked very hard. The car's working well. There's a lot of potential left in the car, I think, and I think next season will be a very quick car. I think it's going to be the car to beat next season.
Habak and Judd developed a taste for champagne over the year, and there was well-deserved bubbly for Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding after an impressive finale to their season. The pair have virtually turned the Class A7 championship into their own property in recent seasons. Hannes Hrobler and Nick Haddon also developed a taste for bubbly during the season. And what can you say about two-time Group N champion Hrobler, who just seems to get better as the years roll by?
I'm just thankful that we had the end and that we've won the Group N for the day as well as the Group N championship for the year. And a cherry on the cake was that it looks like we moved to 3rd overall on the overall championship for the year as well.
There we go. There are our Group N winners, our champions for 1999.
Additional pipe opener to a new season and provide